Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Victoria Downing. Hi, Victoria.
Hi there, Adi. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Great.
Good. I am so happy to have you on this podcast. We're going to have such an amazing conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you are the president of Remodelers Advantage, which is basically a company that is dedicated to helping remodeling contractors build strong, profitable remodeling businesses.
Absolutely, and have been for over 30 years. That's all we do.
Which is incredible. It's just incredible that you have that dedication for over 30 years to help that specific niche, which is definitely needed.
Yes.
And we're going to have a conversation today about really what are the keys to success. And it's not just for remodelers, because I know our listeners come from all kinds of industries. But we're going to talk about what does it really take to build a successful business and build on your over 30 years of experience working with entrepreneurs to really see what the barriers are and what are the key tools to overcome those. That's what I'm really interested in. And I'm sure our listeners are interested as well.
Right.
But before we jump in, I really want to give a big shout out to our mutual client, Chris Towson, that he is the owner of a remodeling company and basically a contractor in Utah, and Living Home Constructions. And if you go to that website, because it is absolutely incredible. The projects that he does, his professionalism, his organization, his systems in place, and he definitely attributes a lot of it to working with you. So he had things dialed in, and you can see what does it mean to actually have a great organized company. And you can hear his testimonial on my LinkedIn profile, where he basically talks about, they had it together, but now he has also all the processes and procedures documented, and that was his dream to get it done. So we helped him with that part. You helped him with the building the systems and being able to actually figure out how to run a very successful business. So thank you, Chris, for the introduction.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's get started. So tell me about, first of all, I'm very curious about your story. How did you get started with this business, and how did it evolve to where it is today?
Well, I've been in the remodeling business, as I said, over 30 years, but I started out in the marketing and advertising world. That's my education. So I sold the commission salesperson selling media space advertising for a number of years. So I went to work for an advertising agency for a while. And then I went to work for a building product manufacturer. While I was there, what we did was provide marketing materials to the people, the remodelers, the contractors who sold that building product. So I got used to that market. I got to know that market. And then I got married and moved to DC from Michigan. And I hooked up with a woman here whose name was Linda Case. Linda was a columnist for Remodeling Magazine from the very first issue till she retired. She was very well known in the industry as being a very smart consultant. So I teamed up with her in 1990, and we worked together till about 2011. I purchased the company from her in about 2000. She worked for me for another 8 years or 11 years, and then she retired, and I grew up here. The difference in our attitudes was she loved the hands-on, and I loved the building of the organization. So she did a lot of the one-on-one consulting, and I worked on the organization. So we grew from a 3-person company to now we're about a 10-person company, which is fabulous. A lot of fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's your mission? Like, what's your purpose with helping remodelers?
I imagine it's the same for anybody who works with any small business. I think that entrepreneurs and small business owners have to realize that they are not their business, that the business is a tool to give them the life they want and to give their families, their staff, their employees, and then all the way trickles down, right? But that it's a tool, and you can model and mold this tool any way you want. But you have to start with, what do you want out of life? And then how can we make this business help you get there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What do you think business owners or entrepreneurs find the most desirable about owning a business?
Freedom. They think there's going to be freedom. They like the fact that they don't have a boss. And I must admit, I like that too. But I don't think it gives as much freedom as most people think it does, because there's a lot of demands on an owner's time, as you well know.
Absolutely. So what do you think people find, or entrepreneurs find, undesirable about owning a business?
Well, there's a lot of stress to it because you're responsible for everything. You have to make the right decisions. We work with hundreds of remodelers across North America, and a number of them belong to our peer group, like Chris did. And our peer group is, these members, there's over 300 members, there's over 230 companies across the US and Canada. They're constantly in communication with one another. And I see all of their emails to their fellow group members every day. I'm constantly looking. So the challenges come up all over the place. One guy just said, he was just writing today that he realized that he wasn't paying enough attention to the actual numbers of the business. He didn't have a good enough grasp on how the money flows through his company and how he should charge to be able to afford to build the business and deliver the customer service. So I think that some entrepreneurs resist the idea that they have to become financially savvy. And I think that's an essential,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. And that brings me to my next question is from your experience working with so many entrepreneurs, what are the main obstacles or the main mistakes or pitfalls that they do that you go, oh, if you wouldn't have done that, you probably could have gotten the freedom that you want, right? I mean, what are the main points? What are the key pain points or the key mistakes that entrepreneurs make?
Well, again, I think the first one is not having a good grip on their numbers. When somebody comes and joins our organization, the first thing we do is look at their financial statements to see if they make sense. The simpler, the more accurate they are. The numbers almost tell the story of what to do next. They tell the history, and they almost tell you what to do next. So you really need to have a grip on that. They need to have the discipline, and that's going to be a word that's going to come up a couple of times here. They have to have the discipline to create annual budgets and 1 and 3 and 5 year plans for their companies. I mean, I believe a budget is one of the most important tools for profits that there can be, right? Now, as a little side track there, every once in a while, someone will say to me, I'm not in it for the money. And I say, I don't care. This is the scorecard of a small business. If you're not able to make money, I don't care what you do with it once you earn it. Give it away. Donate it all to charity. But if you're not making money and earning a good living yourself and working reasonable hours, you can't say you're a successful business person yet, right? So there's the discipline around building that budget, knowing where their numbers are, and then following up on another discipline area, the discipline to follow through on what you tell your staff. If you're going to tell your staff that you're going to have a meeting every Monday and everybody's going to report on their KPIs, then you better be there, sitting in your chair before the meeting starts, as you're the leader of the company, and hold people accountable to report the way you told them that you were going to ask them to. So many times I see the owners getting sidetracked. They get pulled away. A client calls and they blow off the meeting, and they do it 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and then it just dribbles off into nothingness. So that's another one. And I think the third biggest one is it's sort of twofold. Their lack of desire or ability to delegate and to delegate properly to people. So they're holding on to all this stuff. They want to maintain control, which can be fine if you're happy with being a small company. But if you want to grow your profits, your business, your market, you've got to let go of some of this and learn how to delegate and trust the people can do the job. So that brings me back around to sort of tying in there. I think one of the real challenges our people have, and we've had it too, is the challenge in hiring the right people for the right seats on the bus. Oh my God, that's hard. I think that's not for me, that hiring and then managing the team is challenging. You know, I'm constantly reading and trying to do better. It's always, and I never have gotten to the point where I think I'm really good at it. You know, I keep trying though.
Absolutely. And I agree. You know, I work with many, many businesses, and those things that you just mentioned is so true. It is so true. And, you know, I'm just like, right now, I'm going to deliver next week. One of my key signature talks is how to delegate. So I'm refining the presentation once more, because I'm always learning how to do that. And that is a key component. And one of the examples that I'm giving is a contractor that we work with, another remodeler, and what are the steps that he took in order to actually become successful. And one of them was from wearing all the hats, all on one head, like 29 hats, to actually putting all the hats down, seeing where to start to delegate. We helped him with the process documentation, and then he started to delegate and hire. And you're right, you have to hire the right people. You have to have the right hiring processes, but you also have to have the right training, because from my experience, and tell me if you agree with that, I mean, it's more important to hire for the fit for the culture than for somebody that is trained, right? I mean, I heard it years ago from one of my clients as one of their success stories, and I can't agree more, is that if you hire somebody who is talented, who has skills, who has a good aptitude, if you have good processes documented, if you have good systems, if you know how much you can pay them by having the budget, like you said, you know, if you are there caring for them, caring for your group, being a leader like you described, you can train them and then make them into superstars. You don't necessarily have to look for those superstars.
That's right. You know, and then a long time ago, I was talking to somebody and they were talking about, you know, if you have an A player, B player, C player, where do owners tend to spend all their time? They really spend it with the C players, trying to get them up, right? But really, you should be spending your time with the A players.
Absolutely.
Let them know they're appreciated and help them expand even more and get even better at their job, because they obviously have brought the culture that was needed to the seat, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, and it's also, don't be afraid to let go of the C players. I mean, teach them, train them, you know, provide information, provide the tools, and sometimes you'll be surprised, and those C players can become A players. But if they don't be afraid to let them go, because you're right, they're pulling the entire team down.
Right. So when we work with our roundtable members, we track a whole array of metrics. And one of them is, you know, we ask them to build their org chart and grade each employee by their current ability and their current job, their promotability. Do you think they have the aptitude to do more in your company? And then their attitude, so that we can see, are you hanging on to somebody who's really good in their job now and has promotability, but they have a terrible attitude? Maybe not so good. Or do you have somebody who's a B player now, but's got a great attitude? Well, maybe that tells you need to invest a little bit more in that person to build them up to maximize their impact on the business.
Absolutely. I agree. Now, you have different services, right? I mean, you have one-on-one coaching, you have a roundtable, you have a mastermind, you have annual meetings, right? 3 of them, actually.
Our biggest meeting is the summit going on this year in San Diego this September.
Oh, nice. Okay. So you definitely have a variety of coaching and meetings, etc. What do you think is the advantage for, in your case, it's remodelers, but in general, entrepreneurs, to actually belong to an organization where they have both learning from experts, but also peer learning and peer accountability? What did you see what does it do to businesses?
You know, the people who join our organization they have the tendency to want to improve, right? That's a characteristic that they have within them. I think that most of them would have been successful at some point, but I think what participating, especially in a peer group, or most of our facilitators are consultants, so they're involved with the peer groups too. I think it can cut your time in half to get where you want to be with your business, because you're not wasting time trying to figure things out on your own. You're not thrashing around by yourself on an island. There's everybody in that room. So let's say there's 10 companies in any one group. There might be 15 individuals plus a very knowledgeable, experienced industry facilitator who also brings to the table. You're sitting around talking about your issues, and you almost learn as much listening to others talk about their issues and the advice they get than you do when it's your own turn to put your issue on the table. There's so much knowledge, and everybody in there brings something slightly different to the table. So you get all sorts of perspectives that you just never would have thought of. I can't tell you how many times a member sitting in the room heard something that said, oh my God, that right there, that's the price of admission right there. That just made me $10,000. So it's great.
Absolutely. And when I asked the question of like, what do you find undesirable about owning your own business? One of the answers that I get, it's lonely at the top. It's just me. It's just like you said, it's the responsibility of the decisions. It's all on my shoulders. It's lonely, but that if you have a peer group and you're part of a peer group, you definitely then that loneliness goes away because you have other people that are helping you being held accountable. And you hear other people's problems that are similar to your own. So you feel, oh, I'm not alone. Or, well, my problems are not as bad. Also,
that's right. I'm doing better than I thought.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Here is somebody that was in my shoes 5 years ago. Now they're super successful. Yep. Maybe I can do it. Right. So I think that is super important. And then it's not just you, because you can go and confide with your employees. You have to be the boss, the leader, still a good leader, but you have to be strong. You can't show that you are worried or concerned or panicking now, but then you have a group where you can actually have that conversation, which is very, very important.
And these folks, they tend to be not only at the 3 in-person meetings, they're in contact all the time. They meet monthly on a telephone or Zooms. They're always on their emails. They travel around the country to visit one another off in between meetings and to visit other members of the entire community. So it's really strong. There's a lot of peer groups out there, things like young entrepreneurs and, all those various peer groups out there that are industry agnostic and that meet more frequently in cities. But the thing I think is so powerful about our Roundtables program is that everybody's in the same industry. You know exactly what they're talking about. There's no learning curve. Then you get it right off the bat. You can say, well, why are you doing it that way? I mean, right off the bat. So it's really powerful.
Right. And you also coach them on the trade itself, which is very important as well. Mm-hmm. So best practices on that. Absolutely. Victoria, share with us a success story that you had that you're very proud of.
There are so many.
I'm sure.
There was, we've been going through this a lot. One of the companies that we work with in Cleveland, it's 2 brothers. And watching them over the years has been phenomenal. They've been members for about 22 years. And they were in the field when they started with us, not making hardly any money. And they have grown that to be about, 16, 18 million. They made enough money to build a beautiful building, headquarters building for their company that is just gorgeous. And they're so smart and so optimistic, and they're such good leaders. It was just wonderful to see them grow and make the profits they make and build this wonderful life for themselves and their entire team. It's been exciting. And we story after story after story like that.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And it's so rewarding. It's amazing. Yeah. Amazing. So if people want to find more about you, where should they go?
They should go to remodelersadvantage.com. That has just all the information about all of our various services. But another place that they should definitely visit is go to powertips/podcast.com. We have 2 different podcasts that we do, and sometimes we'll throw a blog written article in there as well. So one of the podcast is called Power Tips Unscripted. We've been doing Power Tips TV and Power Tips blog posts for years and years and years. So now we have the podcast. And we also have the Tim Fowler Show, which focuses on production issues in the remodeling world mainly. So that would be great to have people go and visit that and subscribe. We'd love that.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll include all of it in the show notes. So I definitely encourage people to take a look, subscribe, and use the knowledge. That's the main thing, is you have to apply the knowledge, use the knowledge, and reach out to Victoria and find out more. Victoria, this has been great to have you on this podcast. A lot of great information that, again, applies to obviously the remodeling industry, but also to entrepreneurs in general, because those problems you described are common, and the solution are definitely a common denominator that everyone can apply. And if you're not a remodeler, I definitely encourage you to find a peer group similar to this one for your industry so you can get the strength and the power. If you're a remodeler, absolutely check out all the links here below and reach out. Thank you so much, Victoria.
Thank you, Adi.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.